there's a lot of analogies to privacy. So first of all, about me, Alex J. Balan, I work for Bitdefender as a chief security researcher. And this talk is going to be about privacy and a lot on the topic, on the kind of media that's around privacy and how the mass media influences our perception of privacy. An analogy that I like to make is that the media puts a spotlight on various aspects of privacy, like Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, like the Snowden revelation. But do you know what the problem with the spotlight is? You don't see the rest. The media will put a spotlight on whatever is in their best interest. And in the meantime, you're completely blindsided to all the other things that are happening, which may very well be more relevant. And I could stop my talk right here and now. This is the main thing that I would want you guys to take from this. So the whole thing started with the US government spying on their people, right? And everybody complaining about it, and everybody saying that, you know, everybody's spying on everybody, and that's not good, and we don't like it, and it's bad, and I guess you agree with me. It's bad that a government spies on their people, right? Only one, yeah? Really? So just out of curiosity, you guys are privacy concerned, which is one of the reasons why you're here, right? So how many of you have like those stickers on your webcams? Show of hands? Cool. So let's try an example. You find Sir in the checkered shirt behind the nice guy with a beard. Yeah, yeah. Why do you have a sticker on your webcam? Sorry, your random pick. That no one can see you, right? So that's a valid question. You don't have a sticker on your microphone. So, well, yeah, I mean, who would want to see you? See, that's kind of one of the questions. And arguably, there's literally cybercrime in webcams. There's cybercrime groups that we have been tracking in cooperation with the Interpol that do something like, well, essentially they take pictures of you naked, and then they blackmail you. They get your, like, if they manage to infect your computer, will get pictures of you naked, and then they will blackmail you because if present on your computer, they're gonna have access to your friends' feeds and your contacts and all that stuff. So it is happening. So it's pretty a decent thing to do. But the question would be, will the government, I mean, I've seen people put the stickers and they say that they don't want the government to see them naked. It's happening. I mean, people joke about it, but there's actually people seriously considering the fact that the NSA has this fetish of watching them naked. And I guess a thing to be taken into account here is a lot of the controversy when it came to privacy talks was somebody has the power to do something. Do we allow that power to be wielded by somebody like the NSA or the Big Brother or so on and so forth? And this is a very, very controversial topic because we all work with things that are double-edged swords one way or another that can be used for good or bad, especially in cybersecurity. And if we don't allow Big Brother to use tools to monitor things, then they're not going to be able to fight cybercrime. At the same time, you know, it's this all ancient topic. And again, we're going to try to shed some light on this in this talk. We're going to start with how it all started with what I call privacy warriors. In 2013, the whole madness began with the Snowden revelation. Up until 2013, nobody cared about privacy. And the media went crazy with, you know, all government is spying on us. This is something new. Nobody knew about it, or at least not at this scale. And you know, everybody was fully aware that something wrong was happening, that Big Brother was collecting data about everybody. And then more and more revelation came to life. Next, we started to see a new trend called whistleblowers. So Snowden was the quintessential, not necessarily the original, but the messiah of whistleblowers. And we started to see on WikiLeaks and in many other places stuff like Prism, XKeyscore, Tempora, Muscular, Project 6, State Room, and many, many other surveillance programs in cooperation with the German government, GCHQ, NSA, in cooperation with Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Google, British Telecom, and actually all the ISPs in the world. And people saw this and they were outraged. And as I was saying in the previous slide, it's because the media portrays Big Brother as an abuser, and that has an instant appeal in a society that loves their countries but hates the system. And whenever they have an excuse to complain about the system, they're going to use it. We also have other types of leaks, like Panama Papers, like the global surveillance disclosure, like US Army and US State Department documents with the drone strikes and those very outrageous revelations. But, and this is a controversy, when we're talking about whistleblowers and leaks, are there pros and cons, or are there only pros? I mean, arguably, they've made people more aware, and that's definitely a pro. But aren't there cons associated with the leak as well? And another question would be, and arguably the security community and the good people at Chaos Communication Congress and many, many others are going to treat the whistleblowers as heroes. But personally, I wonder, are they also traitors? Because I ask you something. So we have the Panama Papers. Actually, let's start with Prism. Edward Snowden. So the whistleblower did a good thing for releasing the information about the Prism program? Yes? Raise of hands. Okay. Should the whistleblower go to jail because of that? Raise of hands. One. I mean, you're alone, sir. Everybody thinks that he shouldn't, and he should be treated as a hero because he, shed the light on the whole thing. Okay, moving on. Panama Papers. Whoever leaked the Panama Papers did a good thing? You remember Panama Papers, where we saw all the corporations, having offshore accounts and all the links between bad people and corporations, all that stuff. So Panama Paper leak, good thing, right? Should the person leaking the Panama Papers go to jail because of that? No? Okay. Fun fact, in the Panama Papers leak, there were about at least a great percentage of the companies were legitimate. A lot of the information leaked in the Panama Papers was about legitimate business as well. It wasn't just about bad business. The guy did break the law. They hacked, it unauthorized access to an information system. They hacked into a system. They broke the law into that. They should go to jail. But the media portrays them in different colors. At least that's my opinion. And with that, my first advice to you guys when it comes to privacy is do not ask yourself if somebody is watching you. Somebody will always watch you, as we're going to see later on. The question that should always be on your minds when you're thinking privacy in all the things that you're doing online is who wants to see my data and why. Fundamentally, if you have to remember one thing from this talk is this. Whatever you do, whenever you interact with somebody or with a website or with a program, ask yourself, who wants to see my information and why? And that's going to give you another mindset into how to perceive privacy. Okay, now obviously this is just the tip of a very large iceberg, and we're going to go to the cool parts. The Cambridge Analytica scandal, where a company collected information about people's preferences and influenced elections. You're familiar with this, right? We also have a company called LocationSmart that collected information from cellular providers in the US about people's location. They bought that information from the likes of AT&T, Comcast, and so on. And then they used that information into either commercial or other types of interests. We also have our apps installed on our computers. Because, I see people complaining that Facebook is tracking them or Google is tracking them. A lot of privacy things happening, and then they install micro torrent on their computers. And then MicroTorrent arguably has a business model into logging all your browsing activity and selling that to advertisers so they can target you better. Or they install all these kind of applications, and by design, all the applications that you have, virtually all of them have tracking modules enabled for benign or slightly benign or even borderly malicious purposes. All the applications, there's almost no, even for that ping that says you have that number of installations. And there's also IoT, the stuff that you have in your house, like your smart TV, your vacuum cleaner, even your router, your smart power outlet. Not only that these devices will report your behavior to their makers, they also have serious vulnerabilities that enable attackers to tap into your private life. And also we have Google. The fundamental, the biggest, I mean, people say that Facebook is the biggest. Personally, I believe that Google is by design the biggest hub of centralizing information about people in the world. Not the NSA, not the GCHQ, not Facebook, it's Google. Out of curiosity and for your trivia, try to access myaccount.google.com/purchases. You're going to see all your purchases that you've made. So this is my dashboard, and none of this is made for a Google product or with a Google product. I'm an Apple user. iPhone, MacBook. I don't even have my card with Google. Google doesn't have my card information. However, Google has all my online purchasing behavior, none related to Google. You should try it out. Yeah, it's cool. Anybody care to guess how? Yes, mail. It scans all your emails in which you receive like payment confirmations or receipts and all that stuff. So Google parses your inbox in Gmail and then aggregates that information into this my account, google.com/purchases. And people have been cool with Google reading emails ever since Gmail started, by the way. There was a big scandal about when somebody initially discovered that Google reads your Gmail inbox. And Google said, yeah, we do it. And that was it. So this is not meant to be scary. This is meant to be informative. Everything that you do is and will forever be tracked, analyzed. There's no way to escape that. And the sooner you make your peace with that and move on and shift your mindset to more efficient thoughts, like how to do whatever it is that you do in a more efficient way, the better. Because one of the things that kind of ticks me off is people having pretty meaningless conversation in the online space about how to fix something that cannot quintessentially be fixed. And yes, we're going to get to GDPR as well. Okay, onwards, hackers, fun stuff. Hackers actually tapped into my phone at RSA by building a rogue GSM cell. Incidentally, it was built, the software on that GSM cell was built by a friend of mine. Hackers hacking smart cameras, stealing the video feeds, hacking, tapping into AWS buckets, stealing documents and private video feeds as well. We have websites getting compromised and all the collection ones, anti-public, all the leaks, LinkedIn's, Adobe. Actually, in the Equifax data leak, Equifax is like this huge company in the US, and Anthem is an insurer in the US. And the funny thing about Anthem is that when they exposed the database, it had the records of 80 million people, A0, so not 18, 80 million people. And there were like 60 columns in that CSV for each person. Being a health insurer, they needed to have all the possible information that you can have about a person. So it had like stuff like first name, last name, credit card information, that was like, or credit card history, that was like basic stuff. The kind of car that you have, your weight history, your hospital, your medical records history, the kind of route that you take to work, where you live, where you lived, and absolutely anything that would be relevant for a health insurance company. 64 columns per person. 80 million records. They got hacked, it got exposed on the internet. And last but by no means least, I mean, there's like literally tens of thousands of examples for this. Yahoo got hacked 3 times, and the last time like 3 billion users got exposed, usernames, passwords, and the likes. So every click you take, every move you make, there's somebody that's watching you at all times. It's your own computer, it's your own software, or it's somebody else. There's always going to be somebody watching you. And with that, as far as the websites and hackers go, my main message for you guys is whenever you pass data to somebody, after you analyze you ask yourself how sensitive that data is, ask yourself this, because this is very, very important. What would happen if that website got hacked? When you create an account somewhere, when you put your credit card somewhere, always ask yourself what would happen if that someplace, for whatever reason, got hacked, because these things happen. I have a friend who runs a travel agency, and she called me saying that her credit card got compromised like 5 times already. And the reason for that was that she was putting down her credit card in different hotels on each hotel website, and the probability of hotel websites getting hacked, well, you know, hotels are not necessarily the most secure places on the planet, right? So yeah, always whenever you put your data somewhere, ask yourself what would happen. My Twitter account got hacked. Why? Because an app linked to Twitter about 6 or 7 years ago. And back then, when you linked an app to Twitter, by default, it only had full access to your Twitter account. There was no segregation of permissions. So that app got hacked. And when that app got hacked, all the people using that app started spamming Twitter with porn. Unfortunately, bad porn, actually. So not even good porn. So I dare anybody after the talk or whatever to challenge this remark. Any form of data privacy is a myth. Simply because of that initial thing that I've mentioned earlier with the spotlight. There will always be blind spots that you don't know about at all times. If you work in cybersecurity, you probably already know this painfully well. Okay, so I'm going to go through a round of a lot of examples of things that you may or may not have known. Stuff that tracks you, stuff that knows about you. Machine learning behind your keyboard. Your mobile phones, everything that you type is recorded, is learned by the machine learning algorithms in your mobile phone. It's also sent to the cloud. It's also associated with you. They're going to be your machine learning models. They're going to be associated with your account. So when you type passwords, when you type private information, when you send dick pics or whatever, that's going to be logged. And that's going to be kept as logs. Wi-Fi. For fun and games, you don't need to hack somebody's Wi-Fi to find stuff about them. Okay, this is just a passive recon done in this room. And there was a Natalia earlier. Benefit Mac. Does anybody here have an access point Benefit Mac? Benefit Mobile? Shox Wi-Fi, Funbox, Netia. These are access points stored into your mobile phones, people in this room. Because the way Wi-Fi works is that if you're not connected to a hotspot, then your mobile phone will constantly broadcast in the Wi-Fi spectrum all the access points that you are familiar with, asking, is Netia here? No. Okay. Is Benefit Mac here? No. Okay. Is Mavic Air 93C here? No. Okay. Is YDX blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Here and stand. So this is how your devices work. This is how Wi-Fi works. I mean, this is probably not news for some of you. This is news for some of you. This is how Wi-Fi works. It broadcasts all your access points. So with that, you can actually track where somebody has been, because you've been to that hotel, or you've been to Natalia. Why not? I mean, she's a nice girl. And yeah. So this is how Wi-Fi works. Voice commands. There was a scandal with Samsung Smart TVs where somebody discovered that ambient audio from living rooms was transmitted to third-party Chinese server. Who here finds this outrageous? Raise of hands. It's not outrageous. Everybody does it. This is how voice commands work. for Siri, for Amazon, for everything. This is how voice commands work. They listen to ambiental audio, and because they cannot process voice to text locally, they send the voice to third-party server that have the power to do voice to text, to interpret language and transform it into natural language. Siri, sorry? In some cases, in the case of Huawei, yeah. So this is how voice recognition works. And Siri, Amazon, again, anything that has voice commands, this is how they do it. Application permissions, popular topic, but a thing that people don't realize, and this has to do with updates and the life cycle of products. You install an app on your mobile phone, and you give it permission to your microphone and your camera. Somebody hacks the app, and then they will have access to your microphone and your camera in the next application update. And you're going to have no way of knowing that that's happening, right? Because once you've granted permission to something, it remains granted. And they're going to be able to access that resource without your approval. You've already granted permission. You don't need to do it every time. A very fun topic is our friends, who are sometimes less paranoid than we are. An example would be Truecaller, SingMe, and Facebook. What happens is that you know my phone number. Silvio, you know my phone number. And even though I try to keep it private, you install an application like Facebook, and Facebook will synchronize your contacts database with their cloud servers. Truecaller, if you install that application, is going to synchronize your contacts with their database. And because of that, my phone number is going to be exposed. All the applications that you have installed will synchronize a lot of your private information with their cloud servers. And you're going to betray your friends, or your friends are going to betray you by sharing whatever you've shared with them with the internet. If you don't believe me, try it. So I've managed to poison Truecaller. So right now, if you look up my phone number, it's John Doe. But most of the other phone numbers are already in there simply because somebody shared it with them. Use password managers and copy-paste your passwords. Don't type them, or type them as, try to type them as least frequently as possible because of shoulder surfing, cameras, and many other reasons. Also, browser extensions. I personally don't trust browser extensions because, again, they have access to everything that you do in your browser. What you type, they can see your passwords, they can see everything that's happening in your browser window. And the list is much longer than that. Now, just out of curiosity, how many of you have seen something new in this slide? Seriously, am I that bad? OK. Now, a few words on static data. And this slide is only because I've seen banks and a lot of institutions authenticate users by asking them, tell me the last 4 numbers of your credit card, or tell me your social security number, or tell me your birthday, or stuff like that. And this is ridiculous. Using these kind of methods to authenticate people is simply bad. I don't think any of you do it. Unfortunately, I've seen many banks and many cell phone carriers do it. So stuff like personal identification number, last digit of your credit card, date of birth, and these kind of things are static data. You cannot change them unless you change your credit card, but you cannot change your name unless you have it legally changed, I guess. But for all intents and purposes, this is static data. You should consider it as already compromised. Because once it's out there, you cannot change it to, you cannot get uncompromised. So, because I've seen people, they have to know my name, and they have to know my phone number, and where I work, and a lot of other information about me in order to hack me. Again, if it's static data, it's already been compromised, simply put, because you've put it in a lot of places, like the public administration, for example, and it's very easy to compromise data in the public administration, I'm sorry to tell you. Also, and we get to GDPR. So GDPR was supposed to protect us and give us the option to ask the question, what's going to happen with my data after I give it to you, right? So like the good cartoon says, before I write my name on the board, I would like to understand how you're going to use my name. Well, literally nobody in the entire European Union respects this. I can stop my GDPR rant with this. Literally nobody in the entire planet respects GDPR or uses GDPR in any beneficial way. Nobody stops to ask this question because there's like queues and lines. Nobody knows how to answer this question. Funny story, I was at a notary public doing a document, and the nice lady says, sir, you're going to have to sign this paper saying that you allow us to process all your private information, share it with third parties, share it with other third parties, and if you don't sign it, we're not going to be able to legalize your paper. I'm like, what? I mean, up until now, at least we knew that was happening, but you wouldn't tell it to our face that you're going to us in the us, you know? And now it's actually humiliating. And I'm like, and it says here that you take the responsibility of managing my data in a secure environment. And you're going to make sure that it's not, it was actually written on that piece of paper. So out of curiosity, I'm like, so you, the little notary public here, you're going to manage my data securely and take responsibility if it gets compromised? Yes, yes. So what happens if it does get compromised in your administration? Sir, you don't understand. There was a law that was passed by the European Union. It's called GDPR. You don't know. Just sign. Sir, and I ask her again, what happens if my data is compromised in your care? And she calls the big notary guy, you know, the owner of the place, and the owner of the place says, sir, I literally don't know. A legal guy, right? So it's worth mentioning that whoops moment and hacks are not covered by GDPR. We've had hacks in Romania. There's hacks happening everywhere. We had the personal identification number, home address, and all the details of Bucharest citizen leaked in 2001. We had our financial authority leaking all the ID cards of people in one of our cities in 2014. We had Ashley Madison hacked in 412 million accounts exposed, thousands of divorces, 2 suicides, unfortunately. These kind of things are not covered by GDPR, and GDPR has no regulation for hacks whatsoever. And also, funny thing, I don't know how the public administration works in Poland, but in Romania, we have a lot of lines, queues, right? You stay in the queue to talk to the public administration. Is it the same here in Poland? Yeah, okay. So I dare you to go to the front desk with like 20 people behind you after you've waited for like an hour, and when she asks for your private information, you go like, but I need to know, how are you going to use my private information? So yeah. So by design, privacy is really kind of a myth. There's no such thing. You just need to understand what kind of data you have and how you use it. Now, Big Brother claims that they monitor citizens to prevent crime. I guess that's one of the key controversies today, because we don't know that. I mean, they've been building a weapon that they say that they're using for good. And the thing in the back of everybody's head is, are they using it only for good, or are they actually spying on me when I'm naked because I'm such a handsome person? So I know that there's that FBI lady or guy that monitors me. I think a bigger and more important thing to be looked at is the commercial sector, because for all intents and purposes, Big Brother takes 16% of our revenue. The commercial sector takes 84% of our revenue, which is the rest, right? So the commercial sector is much more serious. They're more diverse, less regulations, less limitations. So, and it's in their interest to monitor us. And also, let's not forget how this thing started. The mass media will shift your focus to whatever they want. And you're not going to be able to have your mind set in such a fashion that you see your other blind spots because of what you read in the media. All the Facebook privacy scandals, all the Cambridge Analytica, all the Snowden revelations, and all that stuff. So what do? Do you trust no one or go offline? No, one solution is to understand, based on the sensitivity of your information, which provider you trust and who can hack that provider. So the question, again, to ask is, what would happen if that provider would get hacked? For example, I keep all my stuff at Google. My private, not the very, very private stuff, but my private that I don't want you guys to see, or that I don't want the police to see, I actually keep it at Google. Because if Google gets hacked, they're out of business. If Google Drive gets hacked and private information from Google Drive gets hacked, they're out of business the next day, because there's so many critical infrastructures and businesses depending on Google right now. All the big companies, even security companies, depend on Google's skills on keeping their security in check. So if Google gets hacked, they're out of business. If we get hacked, and there's like an update pushed to your computers, like in the movies, that's going to transform your computer into a backdoor from Bitdefender or whatnot, we're going to be out of business the next day, right? So it's the accountability of a company. However, if D-Link gets hacked, nobody gives a crap. People are still going to buy their routers. If Netgear gets hacked, nobody cares. The last thing I want to point out is prioritize your privacy. This is, so if you want to ask me, so what do we do? What's the next step here? Prioritize your privacy. Understand which is the most you don't care about, and try to understand when you're saying that, and which is the very, very fundamental dick pic that you don't want anybody to see. So everything that you do on your computer, everything that you share with somebody, ask yourselves, with whom am I sharing this information, and how can they benefit from it? What are they going to do with it? And again, can they get hacked? And if they can get hacked, who is going to benefit from it? Would I be in trouble? Let's say I use Box instead of Google Drive, or let's say I use Dropbox instead of Google Drive, and I store private photos. I'm going to be in deep trouble if Dropbox gets hacked, right? Prioritize based on the sensitivity of the data being exchanged. So the kind of stuff that you put online, how critical it is to you to keep it private. Depending on how critical that information is to be kept private, that's how you determine whether or not you put it on one platform, on another platform, or you don't put it anywhere, you just encrypt it and put it on 2 hard drives at home. If you have secret conversations, by design, any reputable service like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or Signal is okay. But again, it's okay if you want to hide from, let's say, the police or your friends or somebody doing a man-in-the-middle attack. It's not okay if you're a much more higher profile target. So it's not going to be okay against NSA, for example, right? If you want to have something completely private, my advice is face-to-face in a soundproof room that you've analyzed. But personally, for everything that's very, very sensitive, is anybody here has been using Linux about 20 years ago? Do any of you remember a tool called WhyTalk on Unix systems? So WhyTalk was a tool that enabled users on a Linux machine to talk between each other. So the way I would communicate with some of my friends in the security community when we had something very, very private to talk, we would SSH into a server. So we wouldn't use any kind of messaging application. We would all SSH into a server, and then we would WhyTalk. We would create a WhyTalk between us. So SSH would be our security. OK, with that in mind, I think I managed to fit 35 slides into 40 minutes. Perfect. So that's it. Thank you very much.